It's 9 this morning, time for Pits and Peaks. Dan and John Duggan are here. John, good morning.
Ger, how are we doing? Dan as well? Good.
Good.
I'm going to go Peaks first. You're first.
Peaks the good one, right?
Yeah.
I'll go back to the PFI Awards on Saturday, and the two main award winners were Jack Byrne and Donaghy Mandroiu. And to me, like, the best part about that aspect of the night was their respective stories. That this time, 12 months ago, Jack Byrne was at Kilmarnock, really unhappy with life, with football. Donaghy Mandroiu had come back from Brighton, or was about to come back from Brighton, has spoken openly. That's Jack there with his mother Jackie in the first picture, and there's Donaghy Mandroiu there now. Donaghy Mandroiu, who spoke about coming back to Ballymun and being called a waster on the street by people who knew him because, you know, he had failed to, get a second contract with a Premier League academy, a club. So both of them were probably rock bottom 12 months ago. They were both there with their mothers on Saturday. Jack with Jackie, who was pictured there, and Donaghy Mandroiu with his mother Sarah, who's spoken in recent months. And both mothers have spoken about the heartbreak of their kids moving away early and the heartbreak of seeing them really struggling when it did happen. And as I said, two lads who 12 months ago weren't very happy with their lives, basically. You fast forward 12 months and they're here being celebrated. They're two very technical, very talented players, both St Kevin's boys graduates, so like both creative, almost number 10s. Jack Byrne's in the senior squad this week. Donaghy Mandroiu's in the 21 squad this week. And if ever there is a case in point, an argument for having some kind of industry here, it's that. Because at a place in time in history, they could have been lost to the game completely. In fact, players like them have been lost to the game completely.
Them, yeah.
They're just two of the lucky ones that had an environment to come back into that worked for them, and they were able to use it to revital, to galvanise themselves and to get going again. So I just think that's just something to celebrate. These talents weren't lost to the match, and they actually got to, in their own city, in their home city, be celebrated, by their international managers at their various levels, with their family around them, with friends around them. You're thinking, that's the kind of stuff that should be used as advertisement. And even there's a general discussion about should you be looking for, funding. Even this is what government funding can do, maybe for academies here, for stuff like that. So best players will always go. The Jack Byrnes, the most talented players of the generation, will always go.
Yeah, fair
but
enough.
That there's something better here, so that so many more players like them fall through the cracks and never recover in every aspect of their life, not just their football career, in every aspect of their life. So you have two lads in good form, and Saturday I thought that was a good story.
Yeah, a good party, and the Maz were heavily involved in both stories as well.
Yeah, massively so. I mean, I did a piece recently with Jack and Jackie, and everyone has a story. Every sports star has a story. They don't always speak about it or get encouraged to speak about it, but I think both these cases, Jack Byrne lost his dad quite young, so there's an emotive aspect to the story, and these are people who play a massive role in the lives of these players, and all the successful ones. Sometimes they put the walls up. You never get to hear the stories, and sometimes it's the one that have had the disappointment. They let the guard down a bit, and you see more into their world and how they
show how important marketing is of these players.
Oh, massively so.
Like Gaelic Games players, I've said this for years. Gaelic Games players, we all know on the back of a cereal packet who Bernard Brogan is or who Henry Shefflin is. And it's so important now that we know who Jack Byrne is through the works of yourselves in journalism or through actual marketing, to get them, known out there, to get them into communities and to hear their story, and then for them to become role models for people in the local communities who go to Dalymount or go to Tallaght Stadium every week.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I've always argued that any promotion of the game here should be player-centric and player-driven. Sometimes it's all based on managers or personalities, and it's all like the players are the stories. There's a lot that people will empathise with and can relate to. And I always think, that should be the centrepiece of any campaign. I would have thought just Saturday, just these two players who were broken 12 months ago, and now they're not. Now they're playing international football, for their country, and they will both leave. Again, that is an absolute certainty, I would think, but they will leave as sort of stronger, better, more developed characters, you would say.
And if they wanted to stay, they could actually have a good career here. And not as good as it
at
would
a
be,
level,
obviously.
of course, yeah. And like we're not ready to, and you know, most like 99% of the leagues in the world are exporters. So there's no shame in that, you know, when it comes to but it's that we actually have the facility to provide that opportunity for them here. You know, that they can use it to be the best they can be, and if that means they leave, then you're doing your job right, actually, to a degree, you know. But there shouldn't be a mad rush for them to leave either. You know, they've only done a year here, and I would argue, I know a lot of pressure on Jack to go now, and I can understand why that would be, but even if it's another 6 months through to next summer or something, there's no need to panic. There's a lot of time on their side, both of them.
Is it true that Spurs don't have a full-time scout in Ireland anymore? I heard that recently, that they've withdrawn significantly since...
I'm not so sure about if that's the case with Spurs, because I mean they have got Troy Parrott in recent times, so there is one or two clubs that's been mentioned.
I think
Chelsea pulled back their presence, and then off the back of Gavin Bazunu going from Man City, or going to Man City from Shamrock Rovers, I'd heard that actually one or two clubs, and then suddenly
got back interested.
Like it's always very like big clubs, even they move in trends and cycles. Like you know, Kevin Doyle went from the League of Ireland years ago, and 3 or 4 went in the year after. People think they might be missing something.
I'd actually heard that Spurs, after Troy Parrott had pulled back, and so the person who secured Troy Parrott isn't as involved with Spurs anymore.
You could be right. You could be right with that. I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I'm looking after that now anyway. So.
John, your peak for the weekend, first one?
It's the Sean Cox story. Maybe people would say, well, that's the least Liverpool could do with the way they, you know, welcomed him to Anfield yesterday, but it's still a very nice touch. I think they're just a very classy club. They're very much a community club. I've been there many times. I'm not a supporter of Liverpool, but for Klopp to greet him and welcome him, for the money they raised through the Legends game, €748,000, I think it was, and then for Sean to have his day yesterday with his wife Martina, who spoke to Nathan, and with his son there, and then to put it up on Twitter. I think the CEO also was referring to it. I just think it's a lovely touch, and in probably one of the biggest games in the world at the moment, Liverpool against Manchester City. Of course, they should have found the time, but it is a global game, and a lot of moving parts, a lot of things going on, and I thought it was a special touch.
Yeah, I made the point about Klopp being at the heart of that as well. And like, he did pre-match press conference talk about wanting to meet Sean Cox in the day, and then after the game brought Van Dijk down to meet him as well.
Yeah, so I just think this is NBC. This is like, even though if you look at the Sky studio yesterday, you got Souness, you got Roy Keane, you got Jose Mourinho, you got Vincent Kompany. This is one of the biggest games in the world, and for Liverpool to go out of their way to make the time, as they should, but for one of their own, for who's just an innocent supporter there 18 months ago, I think it's pretty special stuff. And it also just reaffirms in my mind there's a real connection between Liverpool Football Club and Irish people, and obviously you see that every Saturday night when you're flying back from Liverpool on a Ryanair plane. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely huge weekend for Liverpool fans. Right, my peak of the weekend is the Kerry County final, and David Clifford fulfilling his potential, because when somebody like Clifford comes along, from the time he's 15, he starts having highlight reel goal scoring in schools matches in Croke Park, and like, this guy's pretty good, and then he keeps going under 16, 17, wins the All-Irelands that he does at minor level, and catapulted straight into the senior team, and is sensational from the get-go. Has an amazing goal to draw the game in Clonus last year on the end of a touchdown from our special guest this morning. Kieran Donaghy, good morning to you.
Morning, Joe.
You were also one of the big winners of the weekend, of course, because now you're going to get to play some Munster Club football.
Yeah, absolutely. That was, you know, when we won the club championship back in April, we kind of said that, look, if our aim was obviously to go on and win the county championship, because we were very impressive in the club championship run. We just got on a bit of a 4-week, it's run off in the month of April. So, you know, we just got a bit of a run, and we found ourselves beating the Crokes in the final, and then you have to wait around until September, October to start county championship, and we didn't perform in the 2 rounds of the county championship. We had a tough one away to start out in Dingle, and lost to East Kerry and Killarney by 5 points, having played poorly. We found ourselves level with 4 or 5 minutes to go, and they got a penalty, and they pulled away. They got another 2 points. So, you know, we were kind of disappointed. We just played 2 games and we're out. But look, we've a chance now. We've Nemo in Park Urin next Sunday, and look, normally when you lose a county championship and you play poorly, and you have to wait a full year to kind of get retribution, but look, we've a chance to get a performance out of ourselves on Sunday.
And did the team train away on the off chance that you might have this game, or was it like, okay, down tools, we'll wait until we get the draw and see what happens?
there was a downs tool. We definitely down tools for probably 2 weeks, and Wayne obviously knew the disappointment that was in fellas from the lack of performance that we gave, and he called us back in and he said, look lads, South Kerry are motoring well, East Kerry are motoring well, we don't want the scenario to happen that one of those win the county championship and we're not ready. So the boys, we've been training hard the last 3 weeks, so we've been playing trial games here and there, so yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, were you at the game? Did you see? I didn't see didn't see that much of it, but some of the highlights are that David Clifford was very good, but apparently Paddy Clifford was great as well.
Yeah, I think David was David. Really, he was everything he touched, something positive came out of it. He was being double marked. He was very patient. He actually, you see, he's got the street smarts already. He was getting double tagged and he was getting a bit of off the ball stuff. And I was wondering why he was playing out around. He was out around the 45, running around, but it was to actually draw attention to the referee that he was getting pulled and dragged. And what he did was he kind of went close to the referee, made a bit of a burst, and his marker pulled his jersey and he got a free and he slapped it over the bar and then he jogged back into full forward again. So he's got that street smarts in him already. But his goal was magnificent. He could have had another one, but he put it on a plate for his brother, who then passed it off to Dara Minen or Evan Cronin inside. I think he got the second goal, but everything he touched was gold. And Paddy really early on in the game just drove at Crokes. They couldn't handle his running game. He's low to the ground. He's got great balance. He's one of those guys that can run us probably faster with the ball than without. He's got that innate ability. And obviously, and Liam Carney too, who was in the development squad last year, but I wrote my article in the start today that I think he has to be kind of, in the game squad next year and pushing for a starting place. He was really comfortable on the ball, tall and athletic, and he took the fight to the Crokes around the middle of the field. And they were full value for yesterday's Kerry. They were, Clifford. When he got the goal in the second half, you could tell he turned around, he celebrated to the crowd. There was a real momentum play, and when he got the ball, I'd say 15 seconds before that, I'd say what was going through his head was, I'm going to get a goal here and kill off the Crokes and don't let them sniff around us.
Kieran, I'm a bit of a herder in the ditch here, and it's great that obviously you're going to take on Nemo now, and I wish you the very best and hope you win the All-Ireland. But surely should a divisional team should they not change the rules and East Kerry get a chance?
I don't know. It's possibly a good shout. I don't know what the rule is. I don't know. I know there's not too many other counties do these divisional sides, but it's the All Ireland Club Championship, and East Kerry, are full value and they come together. But they are 5 or 6 clubs coming together. So if they went on and won it, or some club team up in Dublin or Galway kind of going, well, look, how are we supposed to compete with 5 or 6 clubs? So I don't know what the rest of the country would think about it if East Kerry went on and won an All Ireland club. But I know years ago there was Thomond College, Pat Spillane with them. They were winning Club All Ireland. And
UCD.
I believe our team, the Austin Stacks team in the 70s and 80s, that had Ger Power and John O'Keefe, Mikey Sheehy, Dinny Long. They had 5 or 6 All Stars, but they only won one Club All Ireland. But they might have been beaten by that Thomond College 2 or 3 times. So that was a kind of an amalgamation of players as such. But yeah, maybe it's a good shout. But
I think Eugene McGee would have won Club All Irelands, or certainly would have competed for county titles with UCD against Vincent's, and that was when him and Heffo started their rivalry. So, and then obviously UCD would have their pick of all the best
70s,
all the best young Irish Gaelic football students who did come to UCD. I do want to talk to you a little bit about Clifford and his progression, because there's this thing where we've known about him for so long, and as I was saying earlier, his highlight reels are so famous, like even just TG Carr showing those schools games where he would get the ball, slalom through 3 or 4 lads and stick it in the top corner, and you would see him then kick a point with the other foot and go, hang on a second, what's going on here? For him not to have been derailed at any point up to this is fairly remarkable, and there's a chance now he'll be made captain next year. Do you just make him captain and go, that's another thing to add on, to layer on, or do you let him go and make one of the other lads captain? What's the best way to make sure that he continues to fulfil his potential?
I think the one thing East Kerry must do when they're selecting the captain is Jack Sherwood is an obvious shout. I think, you know, Ratmore is also in East Kerry, and Ratmore will be in with this East Kerry squad next year. So the likes of Paul Murphy, you know, coming into that team, possibly even Aidan O'Mahony, Shane Ryan, the goalie, coming into this East Kerry squad. So East Kerry are going to be around for a while. They're also missing Darren Wyman, who's a great player coming off the bench for Kerry this year. So they were missing him too yesterday. So look, they're going to be around for quite a while. And if they have a period of dominance, I think for me, I'd go with Clifford just on the basis of you know he's a guaranteed starter. You know, I don't think it won't affect him. He's taken everything in his stride so well. I've no reason to think that he wouldn't take captaincy in his stride. And look, Donegal made Michael Murphy captain of Donegal at 21, and that didn't work out too bad for them or the player in question. And you know, having been around Michael Murphy in international rule setups and having been around David for the year, they're quite similar characters. They have an edge about them. They're obviously quality. You know, they're obviously quality players. And you know, I think he can take that in his stride and just, you know, Kerry needs somebody they need a captain that, you know, can really be a huge influence on the game. And, you know, Clifford being captain of Kerry and him scoring 1-3, it's worth more than 1-3 because the fans already love him. He's got that kind of bond with the fans already. But, you know, all of a sudden, if your captain's leading the line like David leads it, you know, it gets extra momentum from the crowd. It gets extra pump from the players around him. He's your go-to guy at the moment anyway. So yeah, I think you just go with him, Ger, and you give him that honour. I don't think it's gonna, you know, I think it'll rest easy on his shoulders, if I'm being honest.
Last question for you: should every county employ divisional sides? It seems to work very well for you guys.
Yeah, I think it's an idea. I remember talking to Eamon O'Hara about the Crow Park Hotel this year, and we were talking about it. You know, he was congratulating me in the club championship, and you know, I was saying, yeah, but look, the county championship is coming down the line. And he was asking me about this divisional sides, that they were looking at something like that in Sligo. But absolutely, like it's something that every county should be doing, really, because it gives every guy a chance. You know, you look at a guy like Declan O'Sullivan from Drummond Pearce's, you know, who was a Kerry great now and was a huge leader in the dressing room for 12 years. If he hadn't been playing with South Kerry and winning county championship with South Kerry, he might never just, you know, it might have been harder for him to get through. But when he was playing with South Kerry, he was just so good. And, you know, you see him again on county final days against the Gaeltachts, against the Tomás O'Shea's or something like that, and he puts in a big performance. All of a sudden, the Kerry manager is kind of going, okay, this guy can do it. Whereas if he's doing it in intermediate championship games, you know, there's always that question mark, what's he going to be like against at the top level. But it's something definitely that counties should look at for small areas, pockets of clubs to come together and try and make a run of the county championship, because there is the East Kerry rivalry and they do kill each other for lots of parts of the year. But they do look at the point then of, okay, look, you know, we're good enough, let's go win the county championship together and let's create a memory together that we'll have forever.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll go back and kill each other next week when we're playing East Kerry championship. But that's life, that's sport. You know, you have to have that competitive edge in you that you get on with guys, but then you go to war with them a week later and everybody has to accept that.
All right, Kieran, good stuff this morning. Thanks a million for joining us.
All right, Joe, no hassle.
It's Kieran Donaghy giving us some thoughts on that. Time for a couple more quick peeks. Do you have any more peeks? Or are we on to...
No, I'm on to pits.
Go for it.
Straight to the pits.
Go on, Tom. Go.
No, John, go for it.
Well, Guardiola, what's he at?
I had Guardiola too. Just being a baby.
Well, it's like falling down Michael Douglas. You remember, like, he's just like completely losing the rag with a gun. And
Well, I hope he doesn't go that far.
obviously not. But just this twice stuff, this madness, like just screaming at the sky, the sarcasm he showed towards the referee, and then trying to deny it. Why don't we just go admit it that I was upset and I was just a little bit, you know, I wasn't being too genuine.
They should ban him, shouldn't they? For the thank you very much, thank you.
It'd be a great case, though, to try and make it. You'd have to bring in like an expert on handshakes to do.
Or insincerity.
Yeah, you know. Like, but I know what you're saying about like Pep, but isn't being a really bad loser not part of being a really good manager? Like, you know, can you think of too many good managers that have been really
No.
really great at losing. They all managed.
Ferguson not great at losing.
No. You know, Wenger, like the king of being the bad loser.
Cody, is Cody good at losing? I thought Cody's always quite, maybe on the front of the surface has always been very magnanimous.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe in terms of front. Yeah, but you know, he's seething inside, and I'm sure there's. Yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah. So you don't think he shouldn't be a pit this week? You're like,
I don't know.
You forgive that.
I can understand why it annoys people, and I can understand why he's in that category this week. But I just think that that's probably part of his makeup. So he's not going to suddenly change, is it really?
That's part. But that comes back to my question about whether or not this is the beginning of the end. I don't know if he's able to sustain this level of intensity for a long period of time, and I don't know if the players are going to continue to respond to it. Because if you're watching that on the sideline, you're like, is that helpful to us? Is it really? Are we going to be more or less likely to get a penalty the next time because you've been like, everybody in that sideline will remember you go tout tout tout, and the handshake, the referee. Now maybe he doesn't get to referee a game.
He's a guy under pressure. He's a guy who is in a kind of an unusual position, and it's now 8 years since he won that Champions League. He didn't succeed.
With Leo Messi in his team. He had Leo Messi, it's a cheat code.
He didn't win it at Byrne.
He's got no Leo Messi anymore.
He didn't win it at Byrne.
They played great football. They changed football forever. They did, and they were absolutely sensational.
Yeah.
But you can make the case that he's underachieved in the Champions League.
Ask to Mike Riley, and the guys are in the VAR in the other one. Don't ask to me.
Don't ask to me.
Yeah, I mean, you can make the point. But
next one.
Pitts. Well, Pitts for me was. Not so much some of the chanting. I'm going back to my own patch. I'm surprised we didn't have a horse racing one between us, John.
But Apple's Jade is
Apple's Jade was low. But some of the sectarian chanting at Windsor Park on Friday. I mentioned that Linfield and Dock game earlier. But actually, not so much the chanting itself as regrettable and as it should be condemned, but some of the reaction to it, in that people seizing upon it and saying, well, this is evidence that we shouldn't look at some kind of cross-border relationship. Like, it was idiotic behaviour from a minority of idiots, but if you use that as evidence to think that this can't happen, like you're almost pandering to it. You have to accept that. Like, I know that I spoke earlier about how other sports operate on an all-island basis, but what's obviously very different with football is that it's the one that would bring together people from a different demographic that don't necessarily come together in other sports. And there is a certain degree of ignorance, there's a certain degree of tension. But if you use some chance at a game as evidence that you shouldn't bring these together on a more regular basis, then you never actually cure some of this division that exists. You wouldn't play a Celtic Rangers game if you use the same logic, that some chants in the crowd are... Now, like, what happened was bad. I think there's a very strong possibility.
A lot of people have missed what happened.
Basically, there was from the away section, there was a few sort of IRA teams chants. I think from the home fans, there was a flag produced that would have sort of that would inflame tensions. There was a bit of back and forth, But I have to say, like, it didn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if there was more of it tonight. But and if any Parton and Dock manager felt he wanted to apologise afterwards for it, and like, it wasn't great. There was some singing of anthems and tunes, and like the Fields of Athenry was sung from the away section. I mean, it's one thing Munster fans singing Fields of Athenry, that was questionable geographically, but Dundalk fans singing it, these aren't regulars who would be going to games to sing this. But I'm just saying, like, when you bring together teams who don't encounter each other often, with a bit of history, there's going to be a bit of that spice. And you can't get a bit, won't someone think of the children and take a real sort of God-fearing stance to the whole thing and say, well, then we can't proceed with this because this will happen. This is part of the process. Like, this will happen. Like 40 years ago,
so dealing with it,
Linfield and Dock couldn't play in Belfast because of the troubles. They had to play in Holland because of, there was troubles in the match. Like, it's a progress of sorts. That if the worst thing that happens is a couple of stupid chants, I mean, over time, you just have to deal with those growing pains
properly. Do education,
and that marginalises people over time if you have the facility and the ability to cope with it.
All right, we've 30 seconds left, John, for your last one.
Well, Apple's Jade might have been just the beginning and the end for Apple's Jade. Beaten by Bacardi is that horse I really don't like anymore, because I never back him when he wins. But Apple's Jade, has won her last 2 seasonal reappearances in that Lisbon hurdle. Didn't yesterday. Might be father time for Apple's Jade, sadly, but what a great servant.
All right, good stuff. Lads, thanks for joining us today. That is it from us. 9:31. If you missed any of it, the sports pages: football and Fabinho with Kenny Cunningham, the pits and peaks on the weekend with Kieran Donaghy, rugby with Alan Quinlan. It is all available on offtheball.com/podcast, or indeed the Go Loud app. You can watch it back on our YouTube channel. You can subscribe there. Tonight on Off the Wall, the football show, Monday Night Rugby, and much more tomorrow morning on OTB AM. We're back from 7:30. We'll see you then. Good luck.